Good morning, everyone. This is Alexandra Metters of GalacticConnection.com, and today is January 15th, 2015. We have some very, very special announcements and some incredible news for all of us. Just knowing that we are moving forward and plowing through this matrix to create a sovereign society, what we've all held very dear to our hearts. I have with me Kevin Annett on the line today, and we are going to be discussing some of the new events that are taking place behind the scenes in regarding not only Radio Free Canada, which is something he's going to be discussing, but also the Republic. And I just cannot wait to hear about all the goings-on regarding that. So, hello, Kevin.
Hi, Alexander.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to hear all about this today. Where do we begin? Tell us what's going on. It sounds like a flurry of activity.
Well, it's very historic what's happening today. Essentially, what's going on is there's been a proclamation issued in Canada. It's called the Winnipeg Proclamation of Independence, and that establishes the Sovereign Republic of Canada. And the proclamation's been posted in literally dozens of places across Canada as we speak. It's being read in courthouses, in various city halls. It's being issued to members of Parliament. And the Governor-General of Canada, who is the Queen's supposed representative, he's actually the one who is the head of state in Canada under the Crown Law, he's being issued the stand-down order today saying your office is abolished, and we're now under the jurisdiction of the common law and a republic based on that common law. So it's really what happened in your country in 1776. Although we're not shooting at British soldiers, we're shooting at something much more powerful, and that's the truth.
Wow, that's fantastic. So what is the expected outcome from that, just taking action regarding that?
Well, I can tell you one immediate outcome is people are approaching the police and saying, we are inviting you to take an oath of allegiance to the Republic, and that is to stand down from your oath of allegiance to the Crown, to the Queen of England, who's now a convicted felon, and join up, take an oath of allegiance to the Republic. So we are actually deputizing the police. We're also swearing in common law sheriffs that are going to be enforcing various warrants. For example, they're standing arrest warrants out against various people in government and churches for having covered up the genocide in Indian schools and the murder of those children. And so those warrants will be enforced by common law sheriffs. So it's going to have quite an amazing ripple effect right across the country. We've got reports coming in already about some really amazing things happening out on the West Coast in a place called Port Alberni, which is actually the town I was working in when I first discovered all these crimes of genocide over 20 years ago. Groups there have gone in and spoken to the Member of Parliament. And this person the Member of Parliament acknowledged that their oath of allegiance was to a foreign power and not to the people of Canada, and he said, well, we'll have to really consider this. And the woman who handed them the document, the woman in our group who handed them the document, said, well, there's nothing to consider. You have no job anymore. There's going to be a Congress elected later in the summer. There's actually a convention convening in Winnipeg in late June. And there's going to be a new government elected at that point. So, why don't you get on board? So
wow.
This is the kind of thing happening right across the country, yeah.
So why do you feel that this is taking off now? Why is it being more supported now than, say, 5 years ago?
Well, a number of reasons, Alexander. First of all, we've shown over the last year or so that the common law it isn't just a nice idea, it can be a tool that people can actually use. And a good example of that was recently at that environmental protest in Vancouver, the Kinder Morgan dispute, where our group went in and we actually handed stand-down orders to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and they obeyed. They stood back, and we got over 100 people released from jail who had been arrested illegally by the Mounties. Now, after that, it was clear to people that we are not just making this stuff up. When people stand on their common law rights, courts go along, police back down. And so that really is giving people a sense they can do something because, as you know, people, even if they disagree with what's going on, they won't take action until they see that there's some alternative. And we're beginning to show them that there is an alternative.
That's fantastic. Now, when you say going along on your common law rights. Can you clarify with people how does that look? What would they do in order to fulfill standing on their common law rights?
Well, common law says as long as you're not harming anyone, you're not committing a crime, and therefore the police have no reason to detain you or even question you. People standing, in a nonviolent protest, against the construction of this pipeline through their community, there's no reason to be arrested in that situation. So the common law simply says do no harm, and the law should be doing no harm to people either. And not only that, but based on that, it's recognizing, as your founding fathers did, that the people are sovereign. They're born as sovereign men and women, and therefore they're the source and the originator of government. Government doesn't give authority to people, it's the other way around. And so as the source of law, they can establish their own courts, as we've done. They can convene, they can put the government and even the existing courts on trial. And that's really the power that people are relearning.
Wow, God, this is so exciting. So do you feel that is this something that is very specific only to Canada at this time? This great movement and the fact that this republic is literally going, viral, I should say, and it's realistically becoming an actual so-called, I guess I don't want to call it an institution, right?
No. Well, it's an organism, not an organization, put it that way.
Love it. Organism, I like that. So, is this something that you feel that is just being part of a Canadian following, or are you finding this kind of fire elsewhere around the world?
All over the world. As a matter of fact, right there in the States, we have worked for a couple of years with a group called Restore the Republic, and they're very big, especially in the Midwest. I went to one of the meetings. There was like 300 very angry farmers in a hall in Minneapolis who were the Restore the Republic is trying to get back to the original American Constitution before it became a corporate entity. And they are basically saying, like we're saying, that these corporate officials who are not serving the people but a de facto power, that they have to stand down and the people have to resume authority in America. And that's all over America, this movement. And so that's another example. You guys already having a step forward on most people, because in your Constitution it says you're sovereign men and women, and you have the inherent right of common law jury trial. And anyone who tries to stop that is breaking the Constitution. That's unique in the world. Most countries don't have that. And that's why, we're emulating that in our republic in Canada. But also in other countries, like in Australia, they also were under the, quote, crown. And they are declaring their independence in the same way. They're trying to hold a convention in the summer about the same time that we'll do ours in Winnipeg. So this is definitely spreading, including in England, where there's several movements to establish a republic. And close to half the British people don't want the monarchy anymore, which is something you don't hear most often.
Half?
But,
half the people?
Yeah, it's close to half now.
Wow. Where'd you get that statistic from?
That came out in the other day. There was a Liverpool magazine that interviewed me, and they said there was they did their own. I'll send you the link to this. They did their own survey, and they found close to half of the people they interviewed. This is over 1,000 people their magazine interviewed, and that was the.
Wow, well, and I was at the post office yesterday, and I was very surprised that some of these mainstreamers that I occasionally speak to, and I'll drop, little seeds like, oh, did you see the chemtrails today? Or did you know what's in vaccinations? Did you want to put antifreeze in your bloodstream? Things like that. And they usually, their eyes just usually gloss over. Yesterday I noticed that they were all three saying, we're really starting to wonder about those lines in the sky. Yeah. People are starting to wake up. They're starting to realize. So now you made a comment about stepping into our authority. And I find it very interesting that this is a very common thread even on a spiritual level right now. So it's not just that we are breaking free spiritually, of the matrix, so to speak, but we're breaking free, from the actual government, right? Which means mind control, ironically enough. And we're taking back our own authority. Now, how do you describe taking back our authority?
It starts personally and spiritually, and works out from there. But it also comes in from another direction, in that when we find that when a whole community starts doing this, it has that, well, what you just saw with those folks who are beginning to wake up. People see that it's much bigger than just themselves. It's more than just claiming your personal autonomy, although that's, in a way, the hardest thing to do when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
You just becoming aware of the extent to which we've been controlled. That takes a real personal awakening. But for those who find that difficult, and I've worked with a lot of people who just can't get there personally, they can nevertheless be inspired by what they're seeing around them. I just had a conversation with people in North Bay, Ontario, which is a little community in the north, and there are 4 people there. They're going to go out tomorrow and post the proclamation, and one of the guys he kept saying, well, my life is so messed up, I don't see doing this, but I don't want to let you guys down, so I'm going to be there with you.
Mm.
And we kind of help each other along the way. We don't have to, even if we don't personally have it totally together, our neighbor does, and the others wake up. This is kind of this group awakening happening. And but definitely it has that ripple effect on many levels we're not even aware of,
Kevin, I was wondering, do you actually have a set of volunteers where their sole focus is to try to convert our police forces that are really just issuing out policy rather than protecting and serving the citizens?
Yeah, we have a group focused specifically on deputizing the existing police. That includes holding workshops where we invite the cops to come and learn about the common law, because they don't. I mean, next time a cop stops you, ask them certain basic questions, about the law, and most of them won't be able to answer it, because all they're trained to be revenue collectors,
mm-hmm.
Statute enforcers, not peace officers. So, this is part of the training. We've got to educate a lot of people, including those in the system.
And I would imagine if you're training these sort of folks, do you have to have some sort of credentials, or is it anyone who just has a desire to serve and protect?
Well, what we do is, if people want to train, the other side of the coin is people who want to undergo training as a common law sheriff. There's a program we have now, and at the end of this workshop, people are issued formal ID as a common law sheriff. So in that position, like in the county sheriffs in America, who have actually a lot of power, they're answerable to the people, to the electorate, not to the government. And they can convene juries. They can arrest corrupt judges. Like, sheriffs have an incredible amount of local influence. And that's what the common law sheriffs here in Canasta are going to be doing. Like I say, enforcing the warrants, protecting the people who are trying to do these things. And, in any stand-up, when it comes down to that, it's very easy to get the police on your side because they're hyped up by their training to be paranoid and afraid of everybody. And if you can show that you're a reasonable man or woman and you're just standing on the law and trying to do the right thing, 90% of the time they're on board, or at least they stand back and don't interfere.
I would imagine, too, I just had an aha that this is really dovetailing into getting prepared for the mass arrests across the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was wondering, how do you cross-check the alliances? It's all well and good that these people are stepping forward and they're volunteers, but I would imagine because the dark that are still running the show, so to speak, within the governments, I would imagine they would want to infiltrate. So how are you overcoming that situation?
Well, like over the years, my attitude of operatives or police agents is, first of all, you're easy to spot. You can just rely, and this is part of the personal awakening, we can rely on our own heart knowledge,
mm-hmm.
just reading people's energy. And most of the time, these people are very nervous, unless they're trained professionals, which is usually not the case. Normally, they just pay people to infiltrate. And you can spot them a mile away, usually. But it's inevitable, that kind of thing happens. But there's more to be lost by focusing on that than there is to be gained.
True.
Rather, we say to people that we always stay on the issue and the thing that really matters, which is our survival and reclaiming our planet and the law and everything. So I often say to people, don't worry about that. Put the police agents to work. Give them a job to do. And often some of these people come over. I had that happen in one of the groups I was in Vancouver, where a guy came forward to me and said, I was paid to come in and spy on you guys, but I don't feel right about doing it anymore.
Wow, that's awesome. He had a conscience.
That's right. This is a battle for hearts and minds, and we've got all the evidence, all the truth, and we keep making that appeal, and it sometimes works.
That's fantastic. Now, how successful have you been as of late with any new stand-down orders?
Well, the stand-down orders we've been issued are kind of superseded now by these new things that we posted today, and let me just explain about a few of them. If people go to itccs.org today, you'll see a YouTube link where the entire proclamation is being read out. It's about 13 minutes long, and it kind of explains why we're doing what we're doing. But along with that, there's three other things. There's an act of supremacy, which actually establishes the people as a free and sovereign republic. There's an abolition of an order abolishing the Crown, the authority of the Crown in Canada, and there's an act establishing a High Court of Justice. Now, that High Court of Justice is the basis for the common law to operate in Canada, and it allows local courts to be established. So, for example, there's a common law court convening in Vancouver this week to look into the ongoing crimes there, including the human trafficking, the child trafficking, these disappeared Native women on the West Coast, and the murder of 6 of our members in the ITCCS. I think we've talked a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Now, this common law court is not just issuing stand-down orders, but they actually have the power now to arrest people, bring them to trial, and turn the tables on these criminals who are trafficking kids and all these others who have the protection of the police in that at the moment. So it's becoming a very powerful thing. And again, I urge people to read these documents because these are legal documents. You can run them off and use them when you're facing police or others. It gives you the authority to act.
Well, that's fabulous. Now, I'm just thinking in terms of the people that are listening to this interview. You said that we now have the power to establish these high courts of justice.
Yes.
Can you maybe expound upon that? What is it that you feel is giving us the power to do that?
Well, a couple of things. We have that innate right to do it, as we've mentioned.
Correct.
That sovereign men and women who don't acknowledge the arbitrary authority of what we've been raised with, but actually acknowledge that authority comes from our own conscience, provided we're acting virtuously and according to reason and right. Once you've awoken to that, then that gives you all the legitimacy you need and all the authority, and that's recognized by courts. I've often been in situations where you walk into a Crown Court or one of these Admiralty courts, and you simply say to the judge, will you acknowledge my status as a sovereign man? And they won't answer, but then they won't take any action against you because they know that you're awoken to what they're trying to do, which is without, kind of through your ignorance, placing their authority over you. But once you show that you're not ignorant, then they don't have that authority. And so, it really is part of that awakening.
So really, this is a journey of us really waking up to the legal system and our own rights, because up to this point, I think most of us have been fairly naive, if not uneducated, in this aspect of our lives.
Absolutely, and as we're trained, for example, to think that when a police says something to you, you have to obey it. Now, the thing is, when a police says something to you, they're acting not out of the law, but out of the statute. A statute that a government brings in to, raise money for itself or maintain itself. They brainwash you from a young age to think that is the law and must be obeyed. But if you look historically, time and again, Supreme Court of the U.S. has said this, the High Court in England that established the Republic there in 1649, briefly, it said all this same stuff, and that is, no statute has authority without consent. Mm-hmm. That's a simple fact, that they don't want to teach you because people will awaken to the fact that if you don't agree with the statute, it has no authority over you. And that's a little part they leave out, which is actually quite a big part, because it means who has authority ultimately, right?
Well, I think up to this point, those that have tried to exert their sovereign rights they've faced, brutality, arrest, impedance, that kind of thing. But I think just from what you're saying, there is definitely more of a shift amongst the police force and the sheriffs all over the place that are starting to see themselves not as a separate entity from the citizens anymore because of the fact that everything is so massively hostile to humankind, period. I'm wondering, have you had any discussions with the police and sheriffs regarding that? Do you feel that they're getting to a place where they're saying, God, enough's enough?
Yeah, but a perfect example of that in America is I met with some federal marshals in Minneapolis last year, and this was done through our sister movement in America, which is Restore the Republic. And these U.S. Marshals were approached by a group of farmers who showed conclusively that there were local judges in the pay of mortgage companies and banks issuing fraudulent orders against farmers to seize their land in return for payoffs to the judge.
Yes.
Now, the federal marshal said, yes, we can see that there's a basis for us to act, but we don't have any precedent for how to arrest a federal judge. And I said to the marshal, well, if you had that precedent and if you had a modus operandi of how to go about that, would you do it? And he said, absolutely. But they're waiting for leadership, like all of us. They're waiting for somebody to break the ice and provide the leadership. And that's the power of what we're doing. When you kick in the front door of a rotten structure, a whole thing falls. And this is what we're finding. Everyone knows it's rotten. People are waiting for an example, and then there'll be it'll be like a tsunami. That's my personal opinion, that it'll just build a momentum.
Well, I think that's already begun, Kevin,
yeah.
with the Burnaby Mountain thing. That,
yeah.
In my opinion, that was without a doubt the straw that broke the camel's back. Because it actually showed, it revealed to everyone that this common law situation had some meat to it, and that if you had some sort of checkmate, information on these higher up so-called officials, you had a lot more opportunity to move things along from the common law standpoint, And
not only, that's right, and not only are we getting that from officials in the system in America, we've even been approached with interest from a couple of other countries, and showing interest in this republic, recognizing that the crown is on its last legs. And the royal families, after their exposure in Europe, a lot of the work we've been doing with ITCCS, showing their involvement in these child trafficking and Ninth Circle sacrificial cults. Interpol and others and other governments are very aware of the need to act. It was the Spanish government who used our information to issue that arrest order against Pope Benedict if he came into Spain, the Spanish territory. That's just before he resigned. They got a notification of that. Russia has shown a lot of interest, So I mean, it's all of this stuff is beginning to really build.
It's so fantastic, because once again, this is really allowing us as citizens of the world to unite, not just of our countries, where they've used that as a us versus them tactic.
Absolutely, because people know, you say, why is it different now? People realize our backs are to the wall. We're in a final battle for survival, and everyone realizes that now. I think a lot of people do.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I thought it was really interesting that you have also established the official holiday as July 3rd.
Well, that'll be decided in convention. That's the final day of the convention, and that's a proposal that be kind of the official Canada Day. But the day before yours.
I know. That's. I just thought that was very cool.
Yeah.
And also I noticed that you have separated it into 6 districts. Now, is there one major district, or are all 6, individually operating, and then they function as one unit? How does that work?
Well, they're really based on the fact that they're like bioregions. The first district is the West Coast. The second is the Prairies. The third is Ontario. Fourth, Quebec. Fifth, the Atlantic provinces. And the sixth is in the Yukon and the Northern Territories. And because Canada's so vast, we have to organize that way. If this was England, you can get across the country in 4 hours. And so it's really easy to organize movements, national movements. But Canada or the U.S., the areas are vast, and we are organizing regionally. So, for example, there'll be delegates elected from the different districts to go to the convention, but also within that district, they're going to be holding their own conferences to organize the work. We have conveners for each of the districts. So they're kind of like semi-autonomous regions. And that's also going to be reflected in the final government, because one of the things, as people will hear when they listen to the posting of the reading of the proclamation today at itccf.org, one of the points in the proclamation says that Indigenous nations, and this is a really important reason for Kanata existing, Indigenous nations will be able to affiliate to the Republic as sovereign nations.
Wow. Or
go their own way. So you might have, like, the Ojibwe Nation in central Kanata as a separate sovereign nation, but it's federated, like the way Yugoslavia used to be, a federation of 6 different nations. This is what our model is. So we get rid of the whole legacy of empire and colonialism and domination, which is what's caused so much genocide and everything among not just the Native people, but others.
Imagine that. Imagine allowing each of us to operate and function and live the way we want to, as long as we're not hurting another. Mm-hmm. Amazing concept, huh, Kevin?
Well,
so
it's a natural law, yes.
So now the proceedings and the proclamation reading and all of the information that's going to be presented, how long a period of time is this going to take place?
Well, if you go to, again, itccs.org, and also the Republic's temporary website is republicofkanata.com. That's Kanata, republicofkanata.com. On there you'll see a timeline. And the timeline is this. It's January 15th, the actual proclamation of the Republic, which establishes the common law and Republican jurisdiction. It allows the courts to be established. It allows people to operate under a new jurisdiction. But next month, there's going to be regional conferences that elect delegates to a convention. It's like the first constitutional Congress. And that'll be from June 30th to July 3rd in Winnipeg,
wow.
which is right in the center of the country. As
so
a matter of fact, there's talk about making Winnipeg the new capital because it's so central. But that's kind of, over the next while, we're really emphasizing people to work locally, build up, the movement locally and regionally, and that's really where a lot of the focus is going to be. So
can anyone attend these conferences?
Yes.
Okay, and if they do come, do they need to be bringing forth any of their suggestions on what they want to do to better their city, their town, their village, et cetera?
Yes, as a matter of fact, one of the things that's being established is 5 commissions on different, they're policy commissions. So, for example, there's, if memory serves us, the 5 are the environment, the economy, social welfare, the law and government, and foreign or international relations. And if you have a real, like, let's say you're really concerned about chemtrails or something, you get involved in the Environmental Policy Commission, put forward a position paper you want debated on, and at the convention or previous to that in regional gatherings. So that's the way people can go. And if you want to be involved in that, just write to republicofkanata@gmail.com.
That is so exciting. Now, for all of you out there that are listening to this who have written into me or have been sitting here scratching your head thinking, how can I make a difference? How can I really walk in my spirituality and really truly live the life I want to? Look at what's in front of you guys. I mean, this is so exciting, Kevin. And I think it's truly a dream we've all had. And the fact that it's starting to come true, granted, a lot of work ahead of us, but the fact that there's this open slate for all of these people to come forth with all those things that they're passionate about, that they want to take an active, and I should say proactive and positive change, you know, where we all start learning to work together. It's going to be very interesting because this is new for us, isn't it? I mean, we're not really accustomed to working this way.
Well, exactly, and it's going to be a long process, but at least we've started it. We've given an example of how to start it, and it's a major work in progress. The real hard work begins now. And there's going to be the deceptions happening. There's already fake groups being put up on Facebook to make it seem like there's other groups in the name of the Republic of Canada. I mean, all that distraction will be at work. But the important thing is, like you say, we're setting positive examples of how we can take back our world.
Yeah.
And, you know, the important thing is to start something and keep it going. It's hard for us to learn to cooperate together because we've never been given an example of how to do that. We're trained to fight one another and be suspicious of each other. So that's a big thing to overcome, but it's worked out in practice, you know.
Very, very good point. Now, did you want to say anything about the Radio Free Canada that you're launching?
Yes, that's exciting too. We're the official voice of the Republic is being launched on February 1st, the Sunday. It'll be every Sunday at 3 p.m. We're operating through BBS Radio.
Excellent.
And they've given us the 3 p.m. time slot on Sunday. And so starting February 1st, every week, there's going to be a 1-hour show hosted by myself and Katie Stokwa, who's an Algonquin woman who works, she's on the Provisional Council. She's going to be my co-host. And we're going to be having reports from local activists. We're going to be giving on-the-ground kind of coverage of how the Republic is being built from the grassroots and all sorts of other issues. So, yeah, there's more information on that at itcts.org coming out this week.
This is just so exciting. Well, Kevin, thank you so much. I know it's not been easy to walk the path that you have, and for those of us out there that just have been staying on point with what you have been trying to accomplish, we thank you.
Thank you, Alexandra, and we'll talk again real soon.
Yeah, we really appreciate all the work, and I know it hasn't been a bed of roses, but look at what it's paying off for all of us, not just you,
That's right.
not just Canada, but for all the people, so that we can finally take back our freedom. So
Yes.
Bless you, and if anybody has any questions, again, please visit www.republicofcanada.com. And you can get so much information there. Definitely take the time to pull down the 13-page proclamation, print it out, post it, and let's take action now. It's all right now that matters, right, Kevin?
That's right. Thank you.
Okay, everybody, take care and lots of love. Thanks. See ya.